Alright, so I'm going to make this video optional for anybody who wants to see more examples worked out. This, as you can see, is going to be a little messier because I have like a 3x squared minus 2x plus 1. So again, it's optional because I don't want to take too much time out of your day, guys. It's Friday, but I highly recommend watching this video so you have a little more practice. And the next video you do have to watch because there's going to be a little trick to it that might throw some people off. Okay? So for this one, let me get through this. So I gave you the equation y equals 3x squared minus 2x plus 1. And then I'm telling you guys to graph this, so I went ahead and created my table. Again, I chose some negative values, -2, -1. 0 is my favorite number for this. And then just choose some positive values like 1, 2, 3. So here, what I have to do is, again, plug in these numbers, see what I get. So these I chose, this I have to see, and then plug these numbers in over here. So let's go ahead and get started with the first one. So let me use, in this case, I'll go with the, let's go with x equals -1. So again, I won't go into too much detail with all of these. So I'll leave the rest to you guys, but let me show you the general idea. So let me zoom in so you guys can see better. So x equals -1. Remember our equation was y is equal to 3x squared minus 2x plus 1. 3x squared, yep. And now the trick to this, my x is going to be -1. So that means that anywhere I see an x, so notice I have an x squared, an x, these are going to be replaced by my value that I choose. So like this x just became, what I choose, -1. And according to the equation, it's going to be squared, then -2 parentheses plus 1. And again, this x also became -1. So anywhere I see an x, here, it's going to become whatever I chose here. It's going to be a -1. Now, here's the trick with this one. Watch out. I have like multiplying 3 times -1, and then this is going to be squared. -2 times -1 plus 1. We have to be careful that we do this correctly. So the biggest trick for this one, if you remember, it's called PEMDAS. PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, or parentheses, exponents, multiplying, that should be a D for dividing, it's I don't know, adding and subtracting. We have to follow this order. Anything that has to do with parentheses or exponents, we have to do first. So for example, in this case, I see a couple of parentheses, -1 and -1. That just means I have to focus on those numbers first. And the next thing would be the exponents. So I have to do these exponents first, the -1 squared, before I think about multiplying. This is multiplying, 3 times -1. So before multiplying, I have to do the exponents first. So let me write it down. So again, I'm not using the 3 yet because I'm not multiplying. I have to use the exponents. So 3, and then I'm still going to multiply by whatever this is, do the exponents first. Now, if you think about it, -1 squared, again, it's -1 times -1. So -1 times -1, it's 2 negatives, they become positive. And then just think about what's 1 times 1, it's just 1. So careful, it's -1 squared, -1 times -1. I might write it here, -1 times -1, that becomes a positive 1. Okay? And then I can actually, since I'm not adding or subtracting yet, I just want to see what this becomes. So I have, actually, let me keep it this way so I keep a pattern going. So all I did was the exponents first. So let me make a note here. Exponents first. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, because I don't have any parentheses or exponents, now I can actually move on to multiplying or dividing. We're lucky we don't have any division. So let's just go ahead and multiply. So y is equal to, then 3 times 1 is just 3. Now careful, I'm going to use this negative sign. -2 times -1. Even though it's subtracting, I can think of it as a, what's it called, the negative sign. So -2 times a -1, that's going to become a positive or +2. And then I still have my +1 from over here. So watch out for that. 3 times 1 is just 3, but I'm going to consider this a -2 times a -1. That's going to be a +2. Okay? And then I just have to add, so like 3 plus 2 plus 1 is just 6. So I go back to my graph. Let me zoom out so you guys can see better. Oops, I said zoom out. Sorry guys, I'm trying this out for the first time with the zoom in. So we said that for x equals -1, this was 6. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and graph this. So -1, +6, which is way over here. And in fact, I'll let you guys know right now, when you try -2, it's going to be a huge number. It's actually going to shoot off over here. You don't have to graph that. I would recommend doing it. But again, we're trying to see some pattern going on over here. So let me start with the other small numbers. So again, I'm going to choose x equals 0 because that's going to make it so much easier. Let me divide this up. So I want to see what happens when x is equal to 0. So my equation is 3x squared minus 2x plus 1. And the cool thing about 0, let me zoom in so you guys can see better. I said zoom in. Remember the cool thing about 0, in fact, I don't have to do much work. This is something you can do with mental math. So let me actually show you how that works. So remember, x equals 0, this is going to get replaced with 0. So think about what is 0 times 0, or 0 squared. 0 times 0, 0. And then what's 3 times 0? In fact, what's any number times 0? 0. So this actually cancels out because it's 0. Same thing over here. -2 times 0, 0, cancels out. So I'm just left with positive 1. So y is equal to 1. See how easy that was? These two cancel out. It's just the last number. Wait a second. What is this when I find when x equals 0 and I just look at the last number? Again, it was a question I asked before, but I want you guys to think about it. It's very special, we can call it. It's a specific term that we covered. So when x was equal to 0, I said y was 1. And then let me do one more over here. So now I'm going to choose x is equal to 1. So again, my equation was y is equal to 3x squared minus 2x plus 1. So I'm going to make sure you guys can see a little better. Plus 1. And then, so let me plug in my numbers. So 3x became, let me use a different color, 2, and then plus 1. So don't forget, all I'm changing is the x. So this x became a positive 1, this x became a positive 1, and then everything else is the same. So then let me show you what this looks like over here. So it's going to be y is equal to, and then I'm going to do this in my head real quick. So like 1 squared is just 1, 3 times 1 is 3, -2 times 1 is -2, plus 1. So then 3 minus 2, that's 1, plus 1, that's 2. Okay, now take your time if you're new to this. I just wanted to get this over with because I don't want this video to be like 30 minutes long. But this should be your answer. So let me zoom back out. So when x was equal to 1, I said this was equal to 2. So try plugging in these numbers again. And then what's going to happen here? So I said 0 was 1. I forgot to plot this point. And then when 1 is 2, it's over here. So notice I already see some patterns. So this point was over here, and then make like a quick dip over here, and then it's going back up. As you plot more points, you're going to notice, let me use my color over here, you're going to notice that this kind of makes this pattern. So it's going down, it hits some bottom of here. It's not going to stop here necessarily. It just has like this pattern going on, and then it's going back up. So actually what this looks like is going to be something like this, because it's shooting off over here, coming down, and then eventually shooting back up. So this is the general shape, and this is going to be, or I should say, this is going to be something you can spot better once you plug in the other points. I'm just doing a very, very general shape of what this is going to look like, but again, it's this U shape, and if you can notice, it's a positive 3 at the beginning. That's why it's a positive parabola, and then my y-intercept was 1, which is over here. Okay, so this was the optional video.